The girl is running through the woods with her clothes ripped. How has everything gone so terribly wrong? Her chest feels like it will burst, tears streaming down her face as she screams for help. The blood in her veins turns to ice when a massive wolf's paw appears in her peripheral vision. This is no ordinary wolf. There's something unnaturally sinister in those glowing eyes. In desperation, she calls out to Lola, begging her friend not to abandon her. In her panic, she fails to notice the cliff's edge until her foot meets empty air. Time seems to slow as she plummets, accepting that this is probably the end. Then something impossible happens. A blinding light envelopes her, and instead of bone-crushing impact she expects, she finds herself cradled in the arms of an impossibly gorgeous stranger. His stern expression and accusations about her wandering without permission leave her speechless, though not for the reasons he assumes. She's too busy mentally kicking herself for ever getting involved with compensated dating, which has led to this mess in the first place. But that's all yet to come. The real story begins a few days earlier. It starts with a phone call that shatters her world. She's just been fired after just 3 weeks. She barely manages to stammer out questions about what she's done wrong before breaking down in tears at the response. Despite the pain, she wishes them well through her tears. That's how Lola finds her, wrapped in blankets and wallowing in misery. Before Lola can launch into one of her typical pep talks, the whole story comes spilling out. Out of 7 job applications, this had been her only acceptance. She's just needed 1 more week to get her first paycheck, which would have covered her tuition. Lola's protective instincts kick in immediately. She's demanded to know who has hurt her friend during what should have been a relaxing college break. The questions open floodgates and Callie begins to explain everything, starting with the new cafe near Lola's workplace, the one owned by Lola's latest crush. Through her tears, Callie reveals that the new cafe is actually the reason behind her sudden unemployment. Seeing her friend's distress, Lola pulls her into a tight hug, gently stroking her hair as Callie continues her story. It turns out, Callie had been searching for a side gig to earn extra money, but her one promising lead had recently shut down, leaving her completely stranded. A mischievous glint appears in Lola's eyes as an idea forms. She brings up the compensated dating site she's mentioned before, her voice growing animated as she describes the countless opportunities it offers. Callie's heard this pitch before and still isn't biting, but Lola isn't one to give up easily. Switching into full sales mode, Lola excitedly explains how women can earn money just by being matched with potential dates. To her, it's a gold mine waiting to be tapped, but Callie remains hesitant. Though the offer is tempting, especially given her desperate situation, she can't shake her fears about potentially dangerous matches. Lola jumps in to address these concerns, explaining the site's rigorous vetting process for all members. She describes how they even oversee contract signings between matched parties to ensure everything stays consensual. As Callie's worries begin to fade, Lola adds her trump card. The site uses GPS tracking during dates, making it easy to locate members if anything goes wrong. Callie's hesitation persists even after hearing all these safety measures, which slightly irritates Lola. She reaches over and pinches Callie's cheeks, demanding to know if Callie really thinks she would recommend something dangerous to her best friend. With a persuasive smile, Lola adds that beyond just the money, this could be Callie's perfect opportunity to find both pleasure and maybe even a boyfriend. The mention of boyfriends instantly sours Callie's mood. She turns to Lola with a pointed look and asks where her own boyfriend is. Seeing that her friend has finally settled down from her excited pitch, Callie seizes the moment to throw a pillow straight at her, warning her not to talk about pleasure so carelessly. Most people would back off after such a response, but Lola proves she's far from ordinary. Rather than retreating, she barrels forward, already discussing which photos Callie should use for her profile. Instead of entertaining Lola's persistent suggestions, Callie reaches out for her phone to call her father. Before dialing, she declares that unless someone offers her $100,000, she wouldn't even consider compensated dating. She excuses herself from the conversation with Lola, adding cockily that she's someone who believes in the beauty of honest hard work. When her father finally answers the call, his first question is about her plans for college break. Since her current financial situation leaves her without travel money, she tells him she won't be able to come home for a while, though she promises to visit eventually. When she asks about her mother's well-being, he informs her that she's currently at medical checkup. Worry creeps into Callie's voice as she asks if her mother's condition has gotten worse. Her father quickly tries to calm her fears, reminding her that her mother wouldn't want her to be concerned. He urges her to concentrate on her future and studies instead. Then, his tone brightens as he mentions having good news, though his idea of good news turns out to be far from positive. He's secured a loan to cover her mother's operation costs. The revelation hits Callie like a punch in the gut. Her mind immediately races to the inevitable interest payments her father will face. Yet, her father, oblivious to her distress, continues cheerfully explaining how he found such a generous loan company, boasting about the supposedly reasonable 3% monthly interest rates. His voice brims with optimism as he talks about how the operation would finally restore his wife's health. Always the careful one, Callie asks to review the contract, unable to shake a growing sense of unease. When the document arrives, her worst fear materializes before her eyes. Her father, in his haste and desperation, had missed the fine print. The interest isn't 3% monthly as he thought, but 3% daily. Even worse, she discovers a crushing clause. If they fail to repay within a year, their debts will balloon to $2 million. As Callie runs the numbers, her heart sinks further. The daily interest means they'll owe $400,000 in just 1 month. Her first instinct is to tell her father to cancel the contract immediately, but that hope evaporates as she spots another clause. Once signed, there's no backing out until both the loan and the interest are paid in full. Though this is standard contract language to Callie, it feels like a death sentence. Her father's signature stares back at her from the page, and guilt washes over her. If only she'd called more often. If only she'd paid more attention to the desperation hiding behind his cheerful voice during the brief conversation. She'd missed all the signs. The horror of the situation settles over her as she realizes her father can't possibly handle this burden alone. Her mind is already made up. She'll help him pay it back, even if it means putting her education on hold. Right now, nothing matters more than getting her family out of this mess. Callie's internal battle ends with the realization that there's only one path forward. Compensated dating would cover both the loan and her tuition. She bursts into the room, shouting Lola's name so loudly that her friend nearly jumps out of her skin. Without waiting for Lola to recover from the shock, Callie demands her help in creating a dating profile right away. She doesn't care if she attracts older men, she tells Lola, just as long as they're not dangerous. Lola's face lights up with excitement as she eagerly agrees to help, immediately jumping into action. Meanwhile, across town in an elegant residence, a young man reclines with a glass of wine, casually scrolling through the compensated dating website when Callie's profile catches his eye. He scoffs at her bio, finding it immature how she's turned into a personal diary with far too many unnecessary details. Yet, among all the oversharing, one line stands out to him: her promise to bring only happiness to her partner. A mischievous smile plays across his lips as he contemplates testing this claim personally. He senses her desperation through the screen and makes her the perfect match for what he had in mind. By evening, Callie trudges out of yet another establishment, shoulders slumped in defeat. This marks the 4th place today where she's hit the same wall. No vacancies. Lady Luck seems to have abandoned her entirely. Despite her growing frustration, she refuses to give up, her mind already turning to construction work as a last resort. Construction jobs, she reasons, would pay $17 an hour compared to restaurants' $12. 8 hours of work would net her around $100, but even that math feels painfully inadequate against the mountain of debt they're facing. The thought of loan sharks coming after her parents sends a wave of panic through her body. Her spiral of anxious calculations is interrupted by her phone's sudden ring. It's Lola, her voice bubbling with excitement as she delivers what sounds impossible. A gorgeous man is offering $100,000 for a single date with Callie. the news hit her like an electric shock, and she finds herself sprinting home, desperate to hear every detail from Lola's lips. When Callie bursts through the door, she finds Lola practically bouncing off the walls with anticipation. Without missing a beat, Lola asks if Callie has seen the guy's incredible offer. Still struggling to believe it's real, Callie reaches out and pinches Lola, earning an indignant yelp. Lola shoots her an irritated look, pointing out that if Callie wanted to test reality, she should have pinched her own cheeks instead. Despite her annoyance, Lola pushes forward with the news. There's a video call scheduled for a potential date in just 30 minutes. The moment she picks up a makeup kit, her irritation melts away completely. A playful wink crosses her face as she declares her mission to transform Callie into the most stunning woman in town tonight. When Lola finally steps back from her 30-minute makeup masterpiece, Callie looks truly breathtaking, with barely enough time to spare before the video call. As she steals one last glance in the mirror, Lola's voice pulls her away to prepare for the call. Sitting beside her friend, Callie's nerves are still on edge. The whole thing feels too good to be true. Who throws around that kind of money so casually? But Lola dismisses her doubts, pulling up the guy's profile as evidence of his legitimacy. While Lola gushes about how Colton Evers looks like he stepped out of a magazine cover, and how lucky Callie is to match with such a wealthy catch, Callie remains skeptical. His profile describes him as someone seeking a fun partner, but she can't shake the suspicion that his photos might be doctored. Lola counters her pessimism with a reminder that the video call's whole purpose is to verify both parties' appearances. Yet, even this reassurance doesn't quiet Callie's anxious mind. She fixates on whether he'll be disappointed when he sees her face. But the moment the video connects and Colton appears, his first words are about her beauty. Lola beams with pride, but Colton isn't finished. He remarks that Callie looks even more stunning now than in her profile pictures. Colton's shirtless appearance on the video call, clearly meant to impress Callie, ends up having a stronger effect on Lola instead. Without anyone asking, Lola eagerly introduces herself as Callie's friend, punctuating her introduction with a not-so-subtle elbow to Callie's side. Callie responds to his compliment with polite thanks and a courteous, "Nice to meet you," but internally, she's growing increasingly uncomfortable with his shirtless state. Red flag starts waving in her mind as she questions whether he's only interested in her physical attributes. Before she can dwell on those concerns too long, Colton cuts through her thoughts, expressing his eagerness to make arrangements. His proposal comes as a rush. He wants them to fly to Oregon tomorrow, just in time for his twin brother's birthday celebration, and by extension, his own. The offer comes complete with first-class plane tickets, all meals covered, and a limousine ride to their mansion. The lavishness of all of it sounds almost too perfect. The conversation takes an unexpected turn as Callie notices Colton's particular focus on his brother's birthday. When pressed, he clarifies with a grin that a date with Callie will be his surprise gift to his twin. He's confident his brother will be delighted, insisting that Callie is exactly his type. Meanwhile, Callie's mind races as she tries to understand. Is she meant to date Colton or not? His answer is crystal clear. She'll be dating his brother. Colton playfully suggests she might be disappointed to miss out on dating him, but assures her his twin is equally attractive, if perhaps not quite as charismatic. Still shirtless, he strikes a pose and flashes a charming smile as he lays out the terms. 2 weeks of dating his brother. In his mind, it's an incredible offer, sweetening the deal with the promise of a bonus if she plays her part convincingly. While his posing doesn't impress Callie, the mention of a bonus catches her attention. For a moment, she catches herself calculating the potential earnings, but quickly catches herself. A voice in her head warns her about letting greed cloud her judgment or rush into hasty decisions. Her safety needs to come first, she reminds herself, and decides to continue negotiating with Colton more carefully. Callie steels herself as she presents her terms to Colton, and his response comes with an inviting yet somehow menacing tone, urging her to continue. She lays it out clearly. Full payment upfront, permission to bring someone along for safety, and any breaches in terms voids the contract immediately. Beside her, Lola can barely contain her excitement, already envisioning herself as Callie's travel companion. Colton takes these initial demands in stride, but his eyebrows raise when Callie mentions one final condition. She firmly states that neither he nor his brother has the right to touch her without consent, regardless of any contract. To drive her point home, she warns that any violation will result in immediate harassment charges. Drawing in a deep breath, she asks if they have a deal. Something in her condition seems to have sparked Colton's interest even more. But Callie remains resolute. Despite her desperate situation, she's prepared to walk away if he refuses any of her terms, regardless of the money at stake. She and Lola exchange nervous glances as they await his answer. Finally, luck smiles on Callie as Colton agrees to every single one of her conditions. Colton promises to draft the contract immediately for her review, though Callie can hardly believe he agreed so readily. True to his word, within moments he notifies her that he sends the contract through the site's direct messages. Together, Callie and Lola pore over every line in the contract, searching for hidden catches but find none. With cautious optimism, Callie signs her name. Colton then asks for a minute to complete the money transfer, fulfilling the first part of their agreement. He invites her to verify the transfer, and when Callie checks her account, she nearly falls off her chair. Her balance, which had been so low it resembled radio frequency, had transformed completely. She confirms the receipt to Lola, who bubbles with excitement, but Colton is all business now. He reminds them that their conversation has been recorded, making any cancellation a breach of contract. With a cheerful wave and a promise of tomorrow's meeting, he ends the call. As the screen goes dark, Callie sits in stunned silence. The reality of signing her first dating contract slowly sinks in. There's no turning back now. She's committed to seeing this through. At the airport, moments before their flight, Callie makes one last call to her father about the money she's transferred. She fumbles through an explanation about saving it from part-time jobs, the lie tasting bitter on her tongue. As soon as the words leave her mouth, she realizes how absurd it sounds. Who saves that kind of money from part-time work? Yet, surprisingly, her father accepts the explanation without question. Still, he insists she should have kept the money for herself, even suggesting she use it for a vacation, ironically unaware that she's standing in an airport at the very moment. Quick on her feet, Callie seizes the opportunity to weave her trip to Oregon into a more believable story, claiming she won tickets for the journey. Her voice stays steady as she urges him to use the money to clear the debt, insisting that her parents need it more than she does. This finally convinces him to accept, and his voice swells with pride as he offers to put her mother on the phone. Callie declines, suggesting her mother needs her rest, but asks him to pass along her love. As she ends the call, the weight of her deception sits heavy on her chest, even though she knows it's all to protect them. The moment they step into first class, both women realize this journey will be anything but ordinary. From the luxurious cabin to the gourmet meals during the flight, followed by a sleek limousine waiting at their arrival in Oregon. Everything screams luxury. When they finally pull up to Colton's mansion, its sheer size makes Callie understand how he could so casually offer such a substantial amount for a date. While Callie takes in the impressive surroundings, Lola bubbles with excitement, declaring she feels like a princess and celebrating her unexpected 2-week vacation in this palatial residence. They've barely reached the threshold when Colton appears to welcome them, inquiring about their journey. Callie immediately steps forward to thank him for all the thoughtful arrangements, but true to form, Colton wastes no time getting down to business, producing another contract and reminding her about the bonus he mentioned during their video call. Before introducing her to his brother, he wants her to review the document carefully. Callie studies the contract carefully, finding 3 tasks listed with $100,000 rewards attached to each: hand-holding, kissing, and intercourse. Despite her initial determination to avoid any physical contact, the potential financial relief for her mother's medical bills and her father's loan shark situations make her pause. That money could be their ticket to a happy ending. With a heavy heart, she signs a bonus contract, though internally she resolves to only attempt the first 2 tasks for $200,000. While the final bonus would certainly help, and she keeps reminding herself that her family's well-being matters more than her first time, something in her refuses to cross that intimate line with a complete stranger. As Callie follows Colton, her mind races with questions about the arrangement and her impending meeting. After signing the documents, Colton leads them through the mansion's winding hallways toward his brother's room. Lola accepts to negotiate some rest time after their journey, but Colton's response carries an unsettling tone beneath his cheeky smile. He reminds them that their time now belongs to him and his brother. Though the comment sends a chill through the air, they have little choice but to comply. Lola accompanies them partway before leaving Callie to continue with Colton alone. As they walk in tense silence, Callie's thoughts swirl with questions about Colton's twin. She wonders about his personality and whether he'll truly be pleased to receive a stranger's company as a birthday gift. These concerns feel natural to her, given this is her first experience with such an arrangement. Inside Xavier's room, Colton finally shares some details about his brother. While Callie expresses concern about Xavier's reaction to this unusual gift, Colton waves away her worries with amusement. He explains that his brother's shyness around women motivated this plan. He claims he's trying to prevent Xavier from remaining single forever. Reaching Xavier's door, Colton pushes it open without warning, despite Callie's anxious suggestion they should knock first. He strides in confidently, presenting Callie as Xavier's birthday present while she stands there, mortified by the situation. Xavier remains silent, observing them both until his patience wears thin. When he finally speaks, his first words come in an icy tone, chiding Colton about his lack of manners regarding knocking. As he moves through his room, Xavier shifts from one casual pose to another, eventually stating that he doesn't remember scheduling any meetings for the evening. Callie finds herself speechless, struck by a strange sensation. Though she's never met Xavier before this moment, her heart pounds loudly just from looking at him. When their eyes meet, time seems to stretch endlessly, leaving her to wonder about the reality of potentially dating him. Callie's mind wanders, picturing a sweet life with Xavier. Her heart beats faster just thinking about getting close to him, but she quickly snaps out of it, telling herself off for these silly thoughts. After all, this is just business. He's paying her for her time, nothing else. She tunes back in to find the brothers in a heated argument about her. Colton, clearly losing the fight, tries to win Xavier over by talking about how great Callie is, mentioning how he picked her specially from the dating sites. Xavier doesn't care about that. He's stuck on one detail, asking if he heard right about Colton paying for a date. When Colton confirmed he spent $100,000 to set this up, Callie starts feeling really uncomfortable, and it shows on her face. But Xavier couldn't care less about how she feels. Instead, he's hung up on how much money Colton spent on someone like her. Those words hit Callie hard, and she can't help but feel insulted. Colton barely holds back his anger and asks Xavier when he last spent time with the girl. He defends spending that much money, saying he just wants his brother to be happy. But Xavier couldn't care less, threatening to take control of Colton's account if he's going to waste money on stupid things. Colton fires back that he's not a kid anymore. Xavier can't control his money. As they keep arguing, Callie stands there, taking in all the insults thrown her way. A bitter smile crosses her face. Sure, she expected Xavier might not like her, but this harsh rejection, and right to her face? What does he even mean by someone like her? Xavier cuts through the argument, telling Colton he has no right deciding who or when he dates. Then he turns to Callie with ice in his voice, saying even if he doesn't date someone, he'd never pick a girl like her. That's the last straw. Callie had had enough of staying quiet. She stands her ground, telling Xavier she won't just sit there taking his insults anymore. If he can't see how attractive she is, she says, then something must be wrong with his eyes. Xavier looks shocked at her boldness, asking if she's really questioning his standards. Callie points to Colton as proof, saying at least he has good taste in women since he thinks she's his type. Colton backs her up, agreeing that Xavier got issues with women, despite them being twins. Colton's support boosts Callie's confidence, and he takes it further by moving closer, telling her she's cute and fun. But before he can finish, Callie shoves him back, reminding him about the no-touching rule. He quickly apologizes for crossing that line. Using the moment to his advantage, Colton points out Callie's spirited nature to Xavier, asking again if he's really not interested. Xavier finally breaks his silence, but any hope of acceptance vanishes when he firmly states he won't date her. though she can stay until the deal ends. He insists she returns the money since there will be no date. Xavier thinks this is perfectly reasonable, but Callie is not having it. She quickly points out there's nothing about refunds in the contract, looking to Colton for backup. But when she turns to him, he nervously avoids her gaze, leaving her hanging. In that moment, Callie realizes she might be in trouble. Callie rushes to Lola, her dating site expert, only to get devastating news. The site does allow refunds when the person paying refuses the date. When Callie asks why Lola never mentioned this, she explained it's just a safety rule against scammers. Lola adds she didn't think to bring it up because no one ever turns down the dates they've already paid for. Those words hit Callie hard, but Lola quickly tries to cheer her up. According to Lola, all Callie needs to do is to make the date move and prove it on the site. This gives Callie a spark of hope, and she vows to make it work. Colton's voice suddenly cuts in, approving of her determination. Startled, Callie jumps behind Lola for protection. She had no idea he was listening. Colton shrugs, saying it was hard not to overhear them talking in the living room. He apologizes warmly for his brother's rudeness, explaining it away as shyness. Everything happened too fast, he says, and Xavier just needs time to process it all. He's sure if Callie keeps asking Xavier out, he'll come around in a few days. Then, without warning, Colton switches topics, offering to show them around the house before they unpack and join them for dinner later. The moment the tour ends, the girls find themselves in luxurious rooms. Callie immediately sinks into her bed, marveling at how soft it is. But instead of drifting to sleep, her thoughts keep circling back to Xavier. She used to think anyone living in a mansion surrounded by nature would be gentle and kind. Xavier proved that theory wrong. With refunding the money not an option, she stopped trying to make this date work somehow. But anyone who's ever dealt with someone like Xavier knows her chances of success are practically zero. The next morning dawns bright and beautiful, marking day one of Operation Get Xavier to Like Her. After last night's matching rudeness with rudeness, she's trying a new approach. Breakfast at his door. But Xavier just tells her to keep the food outside and he'll eat it later. His vague instructions leave her wondering. Does he expect her to put it on the floor? Though offended, Callie keeps her cool, announcing she'll set the plate down on the floor. She adds that he shouldn't hesitate to ask if he needs anything else, then walks away. It's only day one, and she's already struggling to stay focused on the deal. Still, she decides to try again tomorrow. Morning breaks on day two, but Callie's attempts get shut down before it starts. She finds Colton instead of Xavier, who tells her his brother left early and won't be back until late. Callie's plans are put on hold until day 3. When the third day comes, still no word from Xavier. Callie decides to ask Colton for Xavier's number. Though clearly nervous about it, Colton hands it over. Later, Callie stands outside Xavier's room and dials the number for a test. Her eyes widen as ringing sounds echo from inside his room. He's been there all along. Something snaps in Callie. Her anger boils and she pounds on his door, demanding to know if he's avoiding her just because he's scared. The banging eventually stops, met only with the silence from the other side. Feeling that his obvious avoidance but seeing no point in continuing, she finally gives up and walks away. As night settles on day 4, Callie and Lola have a heart-to-heart talk in Callie's room. Callie vents her frustration about Xavier avoiding her for 4 days straight, worried she'll have to return all the money if it continues. Lola, with nothing at stake herself, sounds oddly calm and suggests a different strategy. Maybe, she says, Callie should stop chasing Xavier for a day or 2. Let him miss her a bit. Callie shoots down the idea immediately. Give him space? He'll forget about her completely instead of missing her. But Lola sees it differently. She thinks if Xavier believes Callie's given up, he might finally come out of his room, giving Callie the perfect chance to catch him off guard. All this strategizing wears Lola out and she heads to bed, saying fresh ideas will come with a fresh mind. She tells Callie to get some sleep too, and they exchange goodnights. But even after the lights go out and Callie gets comfortable, her mind keeps spinning with thoughts of Xavier and his constant avoidance. The clock is ticking on their 2-week contract, and he's already dodged her for almost half of that time. Deep in troubled thoughts, Callie drifts off only to land in a nightmare where Xavier throws her out. She jerks awake, heart racing, but relieved it was just a bad dream. Still shaken, she decides to go get some water. As she walks, her mind keeps working on ways to get through to Xavier and his self-imposed isolation. The idea of simply bursting into his room makes her laugh so hard she loses focus on where she's going. That's when she collides with Xavier himself, nearly falling until his quick hands catch her. He steadies her with a warning to be more careful, then launches into a lecture about causing trouble in his house when he took his eyes off her for a bit. Kylie spots her opening instantly. "Well, maybe you should keep watching me," she suggests, "so I don't end up destroying your house." Xavier's surprise shows in a slight chuckle. He leans in close, his voice low, as he says he didn't realize she was such a professional flirt. The comment hits a nerve, and though Kylie feels heat rush to her cheeks, she storms away from him in anger. Just then, Colton announces his return home, leaving it unclear whether Xavier's smile is from Kylie's reaction or his brother's arrival. As Kylie storms off, she mutters to herself about Xavier. What good is a handsome face with such an awful personality? Her anger has clouded her thinking, making her miss a chance to ask him for a date. The moment she realizes this, she turns back again to try. But voices catch her attention, and she peeks around the corner to investigate. She finds the brothers deep in conversation about something Colton had perfectly handled. Colton tells Xavier that while everything went according to plan, one target gave him trouble. Xavier seems pleased overall, commenting that the targets had underestimated them. Kylie struggles to make sense of their cryptic conversation until her eyes land on something that stops her heart. A red stain on Colton's shirt. Her mind races to the worst conclusion. Could that be blood? The drama is just getting heated. Want us to continue? Comment Kylie below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao ciao!